how can there be any normal if we base our lives around the concepts of critical theory, in particular that the world's great problem is white supremacy?
I mean, critical race theory, that whole architecture of grievance studies and white supremacy, I post all that bit of post-colonialism and critical race theory sort of post-dated me, I think, in the academy. So I'm actually not massively familiar with the texts. I mean, I was inculcated, I suppose, into kind of 90s and noughties postmodernism, which was a very slightly different beast. But at the risk of getting too theoretical, I don't think all of the insights of postmodernism are wrong. Not all of them. The basic insight of standpoint epistemology, I think, is right. You know, I have blind spots, but based on my own life experience and where I stand, and what is or isn't easily available to me politically, based on who I am and where I exist and how I show up in the world. I think that's fundamentally probably accurate. There are, you know, the idea that language and power inflect how we perceive reality is basically accurate. But I think what's the difficulty is that it doesn't follow from that that the world doesn't exist. It doesn't follow from that we construct everything sort of ex nihilo based on human on it doesn't follow that we exist in a consensus reality and there's nothing of substance underneath. Reality is still there. It's just a little bit inflected by factors, some of which are in our control, but most of which are not. So what? I mean, we still have to exist in the world. I still inhabit my body and nobody else's body. I'm still female, and there's nothing I can do about that. You know, there's if you like the basic critical theory insights. I don't know. I look at some of the theories that have evolved out of this, and they sort of fit my basic rule of thumb about new innovative political theories, which is that, you know, it's reliably true that whatever means, whatever form they make their way out into the world in, will be the most stupid, reductive, and eventually counterproductive form possible. So you can come up with the most brilliant, subtle, you know, far-reaching, observant, insightful new theories that you like for why we are the way they are, but by the time they percolate out to the people in general, they're just going to be dumb slogans. That's just unfortunately true. And I look at, well, you know, again, the insights of queer theory or critical race theory, and the original postmodernists were not wrong about a lot of stuff. It's just that it's percolated out into the world in general in the form of sort of imbecilic slogans and profoundly destructive policies and nostra. And yeah, I think what it's been sort of, you know, digested by rank after rank after rank of sort of midwit, third-rate scholars, until it just becomes a set of idiotic slogans, which then percolate out into HR departments and become really nothing very good. I suppose this is Mary's elite theory again, isn't it? But this time I'm arguing for the elite rather than against them, as I was a minute ago. Make up your mind, Mary. It's extraordinary how much of an impact the idiotic and reductive versions, or how much of a hold these have come to have over public policy. You know, even in countries where they don't obviously fit, or where it would seem sensible to come up with your own version. I mean, America's a unique polity in its race politics. You know, its history. You know, its status both as a settler nation and also as a former slaving colony makes it surely unique, and also the world's only superpower. That's a completely unique cocktail. And America's, you know, I visit America quite a lot. I talk to people a lot there about politics, and it's clear that the race politics there are bitter and intractable, and they don't seem to be improving. You know, notwithstanding 50 years of sincere and concerted efforts to improve them. That's regrettable, and I feel for America in having this kind of original sin to try and grapple with. But it doesn't follow from that what makes that the theories and the sort of radical approaches and the the theories which have emerged in among American progressives to try and make sense of what's happening in America should be propagated throughout the world. But because it's the world's only superpower, and because it's such a media hegemon as well as being such a political hegemon, that's inevitably what ends up happening, because that's just how empires work, right? And even if America isn't officially an empire, in a cultural sense, it 100% is. And so the rest of the Anglosphere ends up being infected with ideas that only really make sense within the American polity. A friend of mine, Tom Owalad, wrote a book about that recently. He did his best to unpick. I mean, he's of immigrant heritage and African heritage, I believe. He's doing his best to unpack just how badly American critical race theory makes sense in the context of the United Kingdom, which, again, our race politics are complicated and not always happy, but our history is different, and the origin stories of immigrant communities, white communities in the United Kingdom, is completely different. It's just we just don't have the same backstory at all, and so. But it's extraordinarily difficult in our kind of unified Anglosphere media ecosystem, where it's very difficult to disaggregate the English political argument from the American political argument on the internet, because they all just kind of happen in the same placeless place. It's extremely difficult to disaggregate arguments about race in Britain from arguments about race in America. Inevitably, they end up sort of cross-pollinating one another, and a lot of the times, I think that's incredibly counterproductive. And I don't know, or I'm not very familiar with those kinds of arguments in Australia, but I dare say they happen, and I dare say that as well in Australia, they're inflected by what gets pumped out of the world's cultural hegemon, and that's. I'd be surprised if that's any more useful to Australians than it is to British.